The first train since we arrived at Greenwich would be CSX M364. Rail fans like to call this train the land barge, since it carries dozens of boxcars and because of how long it usually is. On this day, M364 had easily over 150 cars. Here's an idea of the track layout here in Greenwich, as we have the CSX Mount Victory subdivision crossing over the CSX Newcastle subdivision, forming a diamond.
CSX C3055, west 2 to long, approach medium on CP54, no defects on 16111 RM.
About 30 minutes later, a massive CSX I-161 strolled into view, carrying the typical show of two CSX GVOs. I-161 carries domestic stacks from DeWitt Yard in Syracuse, New York, to the intermodal facility in North Baltimore, Ohio. Next was CSX Autorack train X276, making the turn under the CSX Newcastle sub. The X in the X276 stands for extra, so this means that for whatever reason, this train was an extra of the normally ran to M276. At the time of editing this video, M276 and its counterpart M277 have unfortunately been abolished. I-168 was the next train to appear, with a little surprise, as the leader was CSX 3173, which had the W&LE sticker on the side. Now, I personally don't care for small, barely noticeable stickers on engines, but at least it was something different than a normal, boring CSX GEVO. "30 minutes later, and our first run-through train on the CSX Newcastle sub would appear. It would be CSX domestic intermodal train I-135, with the 4-engine lash-up today. Of course, they all had to be GEVOs, though. "5 minutes passed, and another headlight appeared. This time, another Autorack train heading east on the CSX Newcastle sub. It was M214, which just recently had its origin change from Wayne, Michigan to Walbridge, Ohio. I guess the M209 took its place, as it is now originated in Wayne, Michigan. The traffic would keep flowing as CSX M367 would swing west towards Willard on the CSX Greenwich sub. You can easily tell this train apart by other ones, as it usually has a noticeable amount of refrigerated reefer cars on it.
57, X216, 12 out.
Next on the list was another Autorack train swinging east onto the CSX Newcastle sub in menacing afternoon light. The train in question was CSX X216, which had just gotten a fresh crew in Crestline after doing some work in Marion. This is another prime example of an extra train, which had probably gotten stuck somewhere waiting on a crew. Next was, yep, you guessed it, another Autorack train, slowing down to turn the corner to head south onto the CSX Mount Victory sub. It was a noticeably short M217, which will be getting a lot longer in the coming days with the abolishment of M276 and M277.
Go east, rolling to Wheeling, Greenwich and CP47 when we can, get our PPC up and running. Plenty of power fuel to make the trip. Hold to number 51065, good until 1900 over. Alright, here's the signal indication. Roger, signal indication.
Our next train came as a pleasant surprise, as Wheeling Lake Erie Z394 creeps up the CSX Greenwich sub towards New London, Ohio, where it will turn off onto its own trackage rights. The Wheeling Lake Erie symbol for this train is 712, which is a mix of stone loads and empties out of the massive stone quarry in Erie, Ohio.
southbound track 2, no defects, we 7020 out.
And just like that came another eastbound Wheeling Lake Erie train on the CSX Greenwich sub. This time a manifest, coming out of the once bustling Willard Yard. The CSX symbol would be Z576, but the Wheeling Lake Erie symbol is 238. Since Wheeling Lake Erie runs on CSX trackage rights through here, they get a foreign railroad symbol, which is where the Z comes from. Once the train gets onto its own tracks, it's back to being under its normal symbol.
Defects. No defects. Total axle 196. End of transmission.
Not even 10 minutes later, our third Wheeling Lake Erie train in a row joins the show, heading east, connecting onto the CSX Greenwich sub for its home rails in New London, Ohio. The train in question was Wheeling Lake Erie Z430, which was carrying scrap empties back to Brewster from Lima, Ohio. The leader was undoubtedly my favorite engine of the day, which sported the Rio Grande paint scheme, which was once a big short line railroad in the Rockies of Colorado. The usual hotshot UPS train IO-10 was next, highballing it east towards Cleveland. This is probably the highest priority train that runs on this line, and rarely will ever get delayed by other traffic. After IO-10 cleared the block, CSX M204 got the clearance to follow on its way to Buffalo, New York. This train is usually very lengthy, as it carries auto racks from the massive auto industry town of Louisville, Kentucky. And next came the other afternoon hotshot UPS train I-008, carrying its usual array of 2 CSX Chivos. This train would follow the M204 all the way up to Cleveland and then fuel up its engines in Collinwood Yard. After waiting its turn to head towards Crestline, CSX M363 would charge up right after I-008 cleared the block. I was a little disappointed as this train had 2 ancient switchers dead in tow, but unfortunately those got dropped in Collinwood. But as a consolation prize, a nicely rebuilt Mack would lead the train coming out of the shops in Huntington, West Virginia. And last, but certainly not least, would be CSX M205, which would be our final train of the day. This would follow the M363 up to Crestline for a crew change, and then work Marion Yard before making its way down to Louisville, Kentucky.